The winning blueprint presents.
In the lab room.
Welcome. You are in the lab room. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me on this wonderful, wonderful Friday afternoon, October the 5th. And we are on the heels of Thursday night football. And we also have a long slate of games to get to for the weekend. But before we can get to those games, we first need to go back to Thursday and go over the Thursday night football affair between the Arizona Cardinals and the St. Louis Rams. This family business matchup pitted two teams against each other that were coming off of close wins a week ago in week 4. And the Cardinals did it in a very different way than the St. Louis Rams did. The Cardinals were able to come back after trailing 13-0 at the half, put together a furious rally, take the lead, give it up, but ultimately come back, tie it, take it to overtime, and win the football game. In that football game, I told you that Kevin Kolb was sacked a number of times, 8 in total. And so I said he wasn't being protected adequately. What benefited the Arizona Cardinals in that game was the fact that they were home. Anytime you're home and things don't go right, the momentum never really changes to the point where you can't overcome it. When you're on the road and things start to snowball and the momentum starts to turn, it's hard to get control of that ship once it starts to go in a different direction. The crowd gets into it, and players start to feed off of the energy that the crowd is providing them with, and now it's just that much harder to overcome, whatever momentum that opposing team has gained at home. When you're home and you lose the momentum and the road team gains a little bit of steam and they start to gain a little bit of, old Uncle Mo, and it starts to build, you're 1 or 2 plays away from just turning that game back around and getting the crowd back into it and getting the momentum to come back to your side. And then you can start to build off of the momentum that you've gained. When you are on the road, however, that's not the case. You can't afford to allow the crowd to get in the game, to stay in the game, and allow the players to feed off of that emotion and that energy that the crowd is providing for them. It's so much harder to overcome that when you're on the road. And I thought the Arizona Cardinals fell prey to that last night in St. Louis. They allowed the Rams to get the ball first and go down the field. Boom, bam, thank you, ma'am. Just like that, they're in the end zone. It's 7-0. And just like that, the crowd is in the game. Now the St. Louis Ram defenders are into it. They're juiced and pumped, ready to get on the field, and it makes it that much harder for your offense to execute. And the Cardinals came into this game on shaky grounds with that offensive line. That offensive line had a tough week a week ago against the Miami Dolphins. However, they were at home. And so when you're giving up sacks and your quarterback is getting pummeled and you're turning over the football, the momentum changes to the opposing team, but the crowd doesn't get into it. It doesn't snowball. When you're on the road, however, and you're giving up sacks and you're not executing and you're having to punt and you're allowing the opposing team, the home team, to make plays and allow the crowd to get into it, it's that much harder to overcome being on the road. And I thought the Cardinals didn't establish themselves as the dominant team. They were the team that was 4-0 coming into this game. They were the team with probably the most talent in this game, and they didn't show it. They didn't come out. They didn't establish themselves as a team that was going to try to come into St. Louis and get a victory. And they allowed the Rams to come in and dictate the tempo and the pace of the game. They allowed the Rams to come in, get pressure on Kevin Kolb. And that was something that you could tell was going to try to set out to do from the beginning of the game up until the end. They were going to try to get pressure on Kevin Kolb. And I told you last week, not only did the Cardinals have a hard time protecting Kevin Kolb, but this St. Louis Rams defense got after Russell Wilson and the Seattle Seahawks a week ago in their matchup against the Seattle Seahawks. And so that front seven was getting pressure all night long against Arizona. And they had done it a week ago. And so this is something that the St. Louis Rams had done all season. They get pressure on the quarterback. And I said if the Cardinals couldn't protect Kevin Kolb, they were going to be in for a long night. And that's exactly what happened. Kolb was never comfortable. He was back there taking shots. Even when he got rid of the football, he was getting hit. And those blows over the course of the game, they accumulated. And Kevin Kolb really, I thought he mentally probably checked out around midway through the third quarter, I think. I won't say that he quit. And you won't hear that come out of my mouth. But I think mentally he had checked out of this ball game because he was getting destroyed back there behind center. And I asked the Arizona Cardinals to move the pocket, run some bootleg, run some play action fake, get him out of the pocket. They didn't listen to me. They let him be a stationary target, and the Rams knew where to find him, and they found him often. And the combination of Chris Long and Robert Quinn dominated throughout the course of the night. I mean, they couldn't be blocked. Both of those tackles for the Arizona Cardinals, D'Anthony Bautiste and the rookie Bobby Massey struggled mightily all night long. They were getting beat handily, inside, outside, speed rush, bull rush. It didn't matter. Inside technique. It didn't matter what those defensive ends did. They couldn't be blocked by Massey or Bautiste, and they were in the backfield practically all night. It was as if they were a part of the Arizona Cardinals backfield because they were in it so often. And that proved to be the difference in the game. Danny Amendola, who looked like he was going to have a nice night for the Rams, got hurt early in the second quarter. He had to leave the football game. And so the Rams were at a disadvantage on offense from that standpoint. But their other receivers stepped up, made plays when they had to. But they didn't need to make a lot of them because the Cardinals couldn't do anything on offense. They were only able to muster 3 points. Jay Feely, who had the kibosh put on him, they put the kibosh on him because they kept referencing how many field goals he had made in a row. And you know when the commentators do that enough, they're going to miss. And that's exactly what happened. Jay Feely made his first field goal. They kept talking about it, kept talking about how many he had made in a row. And then he hooked it. And it just wasn't the Cardinals' night. They came out flat, and they couldn't protect Kevin Kolb. I thought they had opportunities to go to Larry Fitzgerald. They didn't. And I think that's one of the things Kevin Kolb doesn't do as well as I would like him to do. There's times where he doesn't even look Larry Fitzgerald's way on plays. And I can never understand that. For the life of me, I could never understand how you could take a snap from under center and not give Larry a glance. I don't care if it's for a millisecond, a split second. I'm looking Larry's way just to see if he has one-on-one coverage. I don't care if the play is designed to go, front side and Larry's on the back side. I'm going to take a peek over there just to see if Larry's got one-on-one. If he does, to hell with what the play that was called. I'm throwing it up to Larry every single time. It doesn't matter. I don't care if Andre Roberts is wide open. I don't care if Michael Floyd has one-on-one. I don't care if Rob Hausler is running a corner route and has a step on his defender. If I see Larry Fitzgerald in one-on-one coverage, throwing it up. And there was a number of times last night where Larry Fitzgerald was jumping up and down, waving his arms because he was open, didn't get the football, didn't even get a look. And they paid for it. And that's what Kevin Kolb does sometimes. And to me, it's very suspicious. I don't get it. I don't understand how you can't look at the best, one of, if not the best, wide receiver. If Calvin Johnson's 1A, Larry Fitzgerald's 1B, how you could not look over in his direction every time you drop back to pass. Especially if it's a 5-step drop. If it's 3 steps and you got to get it out and you're looking front side, okay, I get it. But if it's a 5-step drop and you did quite a number of those last night, how can you not look over at Larry Fitzgerald? I digress. I'm not going to sit and harp on that. I've done that too many times before. The Cardinals were outplayed in every area of the game. I thought Patrick Peterson was going to do something, whether it was bad or good for the Cardinals. Thought he was going to do something. He came close to breaking a couple of them, but he could never quite just turn that corner. He would get around the corner, but he would need to cut back in. Didn't have the space and the real estate needed to not step out of bounds. And so he wasn't able to break that one return that I thought he was going to break last night. But he gave it a run. It's coming. I told you it's coming. He's getting closer. He's inching closer. Somebody's going to get it. But they weren't able to win at any facet of the game. They weren't able to win at special teams. Their punter, Hecker, did a great job of coughing kicking the football. He really kept Patrick Peterson from being able to return the football the way he wanted to. And sometimes he didn't even get to touch it because he kicked it out of bounds and beautifully placed it. Then you got, of course, young Jeezy. Young Jeezy! Greg Zuerlein, who came in, kicked another 50-plus yard field goal, 53 to be exact. Pounded that home. Again, he's a weapon for the Rams, one that they're going to use a lot this year. And he came through for them. And they won in every facet. They won in special teams. They dominated on defense to the tune of about 8 or 9 sacks. Again, just disrupting any kind of rhythm that Kevin Kolb tried to get in all night. And they won on offense. They scored 17 points. The Cardinals were only able to muster 3. And so everything happened the way the Rams wanted to, and everything happened the way the Cardinals did not want it to. And that's what you need to have happen if you're going to be the team who was previously unbeaten. You need to have everything go your way and nothing go the way of the team that was undefeated. And that's what happened for the Rams last night. Hats off to them. Jeff Fisher had them prepared. They knew what the weakness was of the Cardinals, which was their offensive line. They attacked them early. They attacked them often. And they attacked them and were able to come out with a victory. And another thing the Cardinals have to work on, and again, this goes back to the issues of offensive line. They got to find a way to run the ball. They got to manufacture a running game. That running game is anemic that they have right now, and I don't know what you can do. Maybe some more short passes, maybe some more wide receiver screens, especially when you're getting pressured the way they were. Get it out of his hands quickly. You know, run some screens. If they're going to come up the field and go after your quarterback so feverishly, throw a screen. They're coming up the field. Let them come up. Let them go by. Hell, they were beating you off the ball anyway. Let them beat you off the ball. Disregard them. Throw a screen. That'll slow down the rush. I thought the Cardinals didn't do a good job of adjusting to the pressure that they were getting. And they couldn't come away with this one. So the St. Louis Rams hand the Arizona Cardinals their first loss of the season, 17-3, taking the Rams record to 3-2. They're over 500 now. Who knew? Who knew? And now the Arizona Cardinals are 4-1. And now the San Francisco 49ers have a chance to tie them atop the NFC West division. And so that's a tough loss for the Cardinals. Big win for the Rams. And again, that's how family business is conducted. You just never know. Like I said, the last place team can reach up and snatch the first place team and give them a loss. Or you get two teams pitted like this, and you just don't know the outcome. It's family business. If it's not your business, stay out of it. So we move on to the Sunday slate of games. All right? And so first up on the docket is going to be the Green Bay Packers taking on the Indianapolis Colts. Now, the Indianapolis Colts are coming off of a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for the Green Bay Packers. They're going to be minus head coach Chuck Pagano, who we spoke to a couple episodes ago about his condition. He has a treatable form of leukemia, and so we wish him the best. Him and his families are in our prayers, and so we hope for a speedy recovery for Chuck Pagano. And this Indianapolis Colts team is going to have to move forward without his services for the time being. And they had 2 weeks to prepare for the Green Bay Packers. We're going to see what they have in store for them. Meanwhile, the Packers came off of a win at home against the New Orleans Saints in a tough, hard-fought matchup. The offense looked a lot better in that football game. And just when you thought that defense was starting to come along, they got shredded. Now, that was the Saints offense. This year doesn't mean the same thing when you say Saints offense. It doesn't mean the same thing as it has in the past years, but still, you have to respect what the Saints can do on offense. They have Drew Brees. Need I say more? And so, this Packers defense, I guess you give them somewhat of a pass. because that's an explosive offense, and they did what they normally do. I want to see if they're going to be able to take this young Colts offense and stifle them, limit them to next to nothing, and go out and strangle them, dominate them on the road, and get a victory. That's what I want to see. Will they do that? I'm not quite sure yet. I still really don't know who this Green Bay Packers team is yet. Don't know what their identity is. I think they're still trying to forge a balance on offense between running the football with Cedric Benson, passing the ball with Aaron Rodgers, and they're still banged up. Greg Jennings is probably going to miss this game. He re-aggravated his injury, so he's probably not going to play. If he does, he's not going to be 100%, and who knows how effective he's going to be, but he's probably going to miss this game. They still need to get in sync in the passing game, do the Packers. This game is going to be interesting to see how Andrew Luck performs against this Green Bay Packers defense. They were sacking quarterbacks early on in the season. They didn't get to Drew Brees a lot last week. And so with this Colts less than ideal offensive line, let's see if they can go and get pressure on Andrew Luck and see how he responds to pressure. If they don't get pressure on him, and they had 2 weeks to prepare, they might come up with a few things and get Andrew Luck comfortable. I already told the Colts what their recipe for success is. Or I take that back. Can't tell you what your recipe for success is, but I can tell you what it's not. Andrew Luck throwing the ball 40-plus times. Not going to win many games like that. I can tell you that for sure. In your 2 losses thus far this season, Andrew Luck has thrown the ball 45 and 48 times respectively. You're not going to win if Andrew Luck has over 35 attempts. I feel safe saying that. I can assure you you won't win if he throws it over 40 times. Because that means you're losing and you're trying to come from behind and you're asking him to do something that he's not prepared to do yet, which is chuck it 40-plus times and not make 2 or 3 mistakes. You ask him to throw it 48 times, you're going to get 1, 2, or 3 interceptions out of Andrew Luck. He's still a rookie quarterback. I know you want to put a lot of it on his shoulders, and rightfully so. I think he can handle it. He's a very mature quarterback, light year ahead of his age. However, you don't want to put too much on his plate right now. He's still assimilating to the NFL game, the speed and everything that comes with it. Work him in slowly, run the football, run a lot of screens, a lot of short passes to get him comfortable, get this offense in a flow, and see what you can do and go from there. All that aside, the Packers are the better team. They have the better offense. They have the better defense. They're the better team. And they should win this football game. I expect them to win this game. But I don't think they're going to blow them out. I don't think this Packers team is where they should be, where they need to be, and where I don't think they're going to get back to that. I'm starting to become convinced that what we saw last year was an aberration. That was an out-of-body experience for the Green Bay Packers. They were a super team for a year. Now they're back to earth, and that's fine. But it's still good enough to beat the Indianapolis Colts on the road. Packers 27, Colts 19. Packers go to 3-2 on the season. Colts drop to 1-3, on the NFL season. So we move on to our next tilt, which finds us in Kansas City, as the Kansas City Chiefs will be welcoming the Baltimore Ravens to Arrowhead. And the Chiefs have struggled tremendously this year. It's been well documented. We've talked about it. I'm afraid for Romeo Crennel's job. I know it's early to be talking about coaches getting fired, but I'm scared because I thought this was going to be a great landing spot for Romeo Crennel. They won him a job last year, and I thought he was going to take full advantage of it. I was wrong. This team is going south. They're going in the opposite direction. They're not playing good football. And it's hard to really put your finger on what the problem is, other than the fact that they're turning the football over, other than the fact that they need a new quarterback because Matt Castle isn't the answer. Okay, so I just told you what the problem is. The problem is the offense is turning the football over. Matt Castle is not the answer at quarterback, and the defense isn't stopping anybody. That's it in a nutshell, I guess. So never mind. I just told you a story. Those are the reasons why the Kansas City Chiefs stink this year. And the Baltimore Ravens are playing good football. They're doing everything they need to do to win. They're giving more of the offense to Joe Flacco. They're giving him more of the reins of what they need to do or what they want to do on the offensive end. They're running no huddle. They're getting in and out of the huddle quickly. and Joe Flacco is throwing the football all around the football field. This Baltimore Ravens team is getting more comfortable, passing the football, but they don't need to go away from Ray Rice. Don't mistake the fact that Joe Flacco is starting to emerge and blossom into a top-tier quarterback for the fact that you can just stop giving the ball to Ray Rice. Ray Rice is a top back in this league. He needs to be fed, and he is your bell cow. You need to make sure that Ray Rice is a feature in this offense. When you give him the ball, when he's touching the ball adequately, you're an unstoppable football team. When Ray Rice touches the ball, you win the football game. It's really simple. This defense is going to play sound defense. They're going to turn teams over. And you need to make sure that you keep a happy medium. You keep a nice balance between run and pass. Allow Joe Flacco to go play action fake. Push it down the field to Torrey Smith and any other guys you feel like can get down the field and make plays. Anquan Bolden, Tandon Doss. They have a number of guys. Of course, those tight ends, Pitta and Dixon. Ravens have weapons. Chiefs have weapons. Difference is Chiefs don't know how to use theirs. Ravens do. And the Ravens are going to win this football game. They're going to beat the Chiefs. The Chiefs are struggling right now. And I just hope that they do enough to give Romeo Crennel one more year. Just give him one more shot to see what. If he can't do anything next year, I can't save you. But the first thing you always need to do as a head coach is find a quarterback. And that's why I was a little skeptical of them letting Kyle Orton walk away. I thought Kyle Orton fit exactly what the Kansas City Chiefs are. They're not flashy. They're not going to blow you out. But they're going to be a steady team that gets it done. And that's what Kyle Orton has been his whole entire career. Not flashy, not going to post astronomical numbers, but when given a chance, he's going to take his team down the field, put points on the board, give them a chance to win. I thought that's what the Kansas City Chiefs were starting to embody last year, and Kyle Orton was a big part of that. They get rid of Kyle Orton, give Matt Cassell back his job, and this is what you get. They need to find a quarterback. Romeo Crennel, you need to find yourself a quarterback. I don't think Ricky Stanzi is that guy. But if you need to find out. Because if you need to draft something, then you need to do that. But you guys got to figure it out in Kansas City. This isn't the week you do it, though. Baltimore Ravens are going to come into town and play sound football. And they need to take care of business. Don't allow the Chiefs to hang around in this game. Don't turn the football over and give them hope. Come into this game. Put the hammer down immediately. Score often. Stop them. Force turnovers. Allow them to know. Let that doubt creep into their mind that they don't stand a chance. You do that, you've defeated the Kansas City Chiefs before halftime. Baltimore Ravens 30, Chiefs 16 in this game. Ravens go to 4-1 on the season. Chiefs drop to 1-4 on the season. Moving on, Miami Dolphins travel to Cincinnati to take on the Bengals. The Bengals are playing really good football right now. And the reason they're playing good football is because they're not playing good football teams. And here's another game for the Bengals, another layup that all they have to do is come, play confident football on the offensive side of the ball as they've done all season, put up points, and outscore a team that can't keep pace with them. They've played the teams of the likes of the Browns. They've played the Redskins. And that's a team that can score points. They had to outscore the Redskins, and they did that. They played the Ravens. They lost that football game. The one team that they've played all year with a winning record, they lost to them. And they played the Jacksonville Jaguars. So you think Browns, Redskins, Jaguars are your 3 victories, and your 1 loss is to the Ravens. So you really haven't played anybody. The one team you played that was any good, you got blown out by. So this Bengals team right now is getting fat off of some really good home cooking. They're getting some good food to eat, and they're eating it up. You know, they're getting teams that they can get fat off of, and that's what you do. You're not going to hear me badmouth the Bengals for doing what they're supposed to do. They put a garbage team in front of you, dispose of that garbage. Don't allow it to hang around. Don't allow it to sneak you and get a victory. They put garbage in front of you, dispose of that garbage. That's what you've done. You got more garbage in front of you. And look, the Dolphins are no pushover. I sit here and I call them garbage because of their record, but they've played good enough on the field to be 3-1 right now. But they're a young football team that doesn't know how to win. And so instead of them being 3-1, they're the inverse of that. They're 1-3. And they're not going on the road to beat Cincinnati. They're just not going to do it. They're not at that level yet. Maybe in week 12 or 13, when they've took a few lumps, gained that experience, and start to turn things around, maybe they'll start beating teams they have no business beating on the road. But until then, they're not going to beat the Bengals on the road. The Bengals are an explosive offense with a lot of weapons that can score points. The Dolphins right now want you to stop right around 24, 23 points, and they can hang with you. You start talking about 27, 30 points, the Dolphins are going to have to bow out. They can't get to 27 or 30 points. They're not explosive enough on offense to do that. And so the Bengals are going to drop them off somewhere around, 17, and they're going to keep going. The Dolphins just don't have the firepower on offense, and the defense right now isn't good enough to stop a team like the Bengals from putting up points. And so the Bengals at home need to take care of business against the Dolphins, and I feel they will. 27-20. Will this game be as close as the final score indicates? Don't know. But I don't think that the Bengals are going to blow the Dolphins out. I don't think they're going to blow their doors off. Because the Bengals, to me, aren't that great of a football team. I told you how I felt about them before the season started. I have not changed. My stance has not changed whatsoever. I just feel a little bit better about them. I think they're a better football team than I gave them credit for, but they haven't played anybody. So it's hard for me to give them too much credit and give too much credence to their record because they're beating up teams they're supposed to beat. And while I give you credit for that, because that's a lost art these days, teams don't beat teams up that they're supposed to beat. You've done that thus far, but you got to beat the teams in your division. You already lost to the Ravens. Can you beat the Steelers? I don't know. We're going to see. When big boy football shows up, will you be able to play big boy football? I don't know. But this isn't big boy football. I expect you to dominate this game. I expect you to beat the Dolphins 27-20 to take your record to 4-1, drop the Dolphins to 1-4. Moving on. The Philadelphia Eagles are going to Pittsburgh to take on the Steelers in an interstate matchup between two Pennsylvania football teams. The Eagles coming off of a nail-biter of a win on Sunday Night Football against the New York Football Giants, getting it done inside of their family, taking care of some family business. Meanwhile, the Steelers are coming off of a bye, a well-needed one at that, after losing inexplicably at Oakland to the Raiders in a shootout. And for the Steelers, this is big because they are welcoming back the troops. They're getting back a lot of their players that they need for success. James Harrison, Troy Polamalu, Rashard Mendenhall are all coming back to this Pittsburgh Steelers lineup. And they couldn't have come at a better time because the Steelers are reeling right now. Starting the season 1-2, in danger of falling a full 3 games back behind the Ravens if the Ravens get it done in Kansas City and they fall to these Philadelphia Eagles. You could be looking at the Steelers at 1-3, looking up at the 4-1 Baltimore Ravens. That's a scary proposition if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers, because not only then would you have to worry about the Ravens, but then you'll be looking up at the 4-1 Cincinnati Bengals if they're able to get it done against the Dolphins as well. And so if you're the Steelers, you got to have this one. You got to find a way to get to 500. And this is a good football team you're playing against in the Philadelphia Eagles. They may turn the ball over. They may do a lot of nonsense. Andy Reid may make bad calls in terms of not handing the ball off to Shady McCoy at times and freezing kickers when they don't need to be frozen at the end of ball games. But all that aside, this is a good Philadelphia Eagles football team. They play sound defense. They get after the quarterback. They can score points. Haven't been doing it of late, but we know it's there. They have the explosion to do it. They should be getting Jeremy Maclin back in that offense. That's going to help them score points. And so this Steelers team has a tough task in front of them. But they don't have a choice but to get it done. They're off a bye. There's no excuses. These guys are back, and we're referring to Harrison, Polamalu, and Mendenhall. So you get the brigade back. You're at home. You're coming off a bye. You've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Philadelphia Eagles football team. No excuse. Go out and get it done. You can't beat the Eagles at home off a bye with all your guys back healthy. Then maybe that every 4-year curse is accurate. That states that the Pittsburgh Steelers don't make the playoffs every 4 years. They didn't make it in 2000. They didn't make it in 2004. They didn't make it in 2008. 4 years later, it's 2012. So you don't win this game, then I'm starting to give credence to that whole jinx, we're going to call it. The 4-year Steelers jinx. So you need this game back. And you're at home. And I think that the Eagles are a team that can be had. And I think your physical style of play with all these guys returning is going to be too much for the Eagles. If you turn the football over, though, like you did against the Raiders, you're going to be in for a long day. But I think you've learned from your mistakes. You're starting to get comfortable in this Todd Haley offense. And I think you're going to find a way to get it done against these Philadelphia Eagles. Eagles 23, Steelers 27. Steelers go to 2-2 on the season to even up their record. Eagles drop to 3-2 on the season. And this is going to be a very, very intriguing football game. Because both of these teams want to grab it. The Steelers need it. The Eagles want it. And I think that's going to be the difference. The Steelers need this game. The Eagles want this game. And I think that's going to prove to be the difference. Next up on the slate, the Cleveland Browns travel to New York to take on the Giants, or New Jersey to take on the New York Giants. This was my sole survivor pick of the week. So you know where I'm leaning on this game already. You already know who I think is going to win this game. In case you don't, the Giants are going to win this game. The Browns are a team searching for a victory. I already said, when they get it, it's going to be at home. It's not going to be on the road. Their first victory of the season will not be on the road. I'm on the record of saying that, and I'm not backing down from that. They're not good enough to beat someone on the road quite yet. They have to be playing the Raiders on the road to have a legitimate shot at winning on the road. Their first victory of the season will come at home at the hands of some defenseless team who comes in there, turns the football over, and allows the Browns to stay in the game and steal one from them. Almost like the Eagles had it done to them. That's how the Browns are going to win. That's going to be their formula for success in winning a football game this year. Turning a team over 4 or 5 times like they did against the Eagles, but pulling it out. They got 4 turnovers against the Eagles. They needed 5. They had an opportunity to get 5. They didn't. They lost. They're going to do that to someone. It won't be this week against the Giants on the road. The Giants are going to take care of business. I don't think Hakeem Nicks is playing again, but it doesn't matter. They have enough weapons. Ramses Barden might be out. He had a concussion last week. He might miss the game. Again, doesn't matter. The Giants will have enough firepower to get it done, whether Hickson, Cruz, or Bennett. They'll find someone to throw the football to. Eli will get them the ball. They'll make plays. It'll be enough to beat this Cleveland Browns football team. Giants 27, Browns 16. Moving right along. Our next game up on the slate of games is going to be the Seattle Seahawks traveling to the Carolina Panthers in a game that sees 2 teams who had heartbreaking losses a week ago. Panthers more so than the Seattle Seahawks. The Panthers were actually leading in this game with less than 2 minutes to go against the Atlanta Falcons. Had the Falcons pinned on their own 1-yard line. Had to go essentially 70 yards to get into, comfortable field goal range for Matt Bryant. And they allowed the Falcons to do just that. In one play, the Falcons had ate up 60 yards. Big, deep bomb to Roddy White that really put them in prime position to win that football game. But it should have never came to that. Cam Newton had a chance to ice it away with the first down. He had the first down, dove, but lost the football in the process of diving. Football went behind the first down marker, was recovered by the Panthers, but they didn't get the first down. Decided to punt because they were deep in Atlanta Falcons or deep in their own territory. Or maybe not deep. I take that back. They were in their own territory, however. In enough of a precarious situation that if they went for it, didn't get it, the Falcons would need 1 first down to kick a field goal. They didn't want to do that. And I thought I thought it was the right decision. I thought that they made the right decision, but had he went for it, I would have agreed with that too, because the Falcons' offense is so explosive that if you give them a chance, which they did, that they could move the ball and get a field goal, which they did, and beat you, which they did. And so I bet you if, head coach Ron Rivera had to do it all over again, he'd go for it. But hindsight is 2020. He knows what happens now, so he'd be able to go in retrospect and go back and do it over again. He would go for it. If they had that same scenario come up in Carolina, he'd go for it. But this Carolina Panthers team lost that game, last week. They gained some confidence from that game, though, because a week prior to that, they got shellacked on Thursday Night Football by the New York Giants, and this team was in a little bit of turmoil. They were questioning Cam Newton as a quarterback, as a leader, more so than a quarterback, and we didn't know where they were going to go from there. There was a little bit of infighting, but every family has infighting. So they swept it under the rug. They showed up. They played solid football against the Falcons, gave themselves a chance to win. Meanwhile, the Seattle Seahawks, after having two good wins, two solid home victories against the Cowboys and the controversial win over the Packers, they went and laid an egg on the road against the St. Louis Rams, only scoring 13 points, throwing 3 interceptions, did the rookie Russell Wilson, and they turned the ball over and didn't give themselves a chance to win. Defense played well enough to win the game, only surrendering a touchdown on special teams on a trick play. But the offense didn't help out the defense, and they lost the game 13-19 to the St. Louis Rams. And so both of these teams are looking to rebound off of tough losses a week ago. And this is a very evenly matched game. Two teams who have young quarterbacks that are mobile, who want to push the ball down the field, but also don't want to make the big mistake. Two defenses, one that is a lot better than the other. The Seahawks defense is really, really, really good. The Panthers defense can be good. They got after Matt Ryan a week ago, got pressure on him, limited that Atlanta Falcons offense for most part of the game, but they gave up big plays. You can't give up big plays. They did. They lost. Who's going to win this game? When it's an evenly matched game as this one is, I always tend to lean toward the home team. And that's what I'm going to do in this instance as well. The Panthers have Jonathan Stewart back. I love when he plays. When Jonathan Stewart, D'Angelo Williams, and Cam Newton all play, I think this Carolina Panthers football team is hard to stop. And they all rushed and had a great game against the Atlanta Falcons a week ago. The Panthers rushed for over 160 yards on the ground. And if they can do that same thing, if they can duplicate that kind of success on the ground, that'll open up things for Cam Newton in the passing game and help these Panthers get a victory against the Seattle Seahawks. And that's what I think they're going to do. 23-20 over the Seattle Seahawks. Carolina Panthers will win this game, take care of business. 23-20 over the Seattle Seahawks, taking their record to 2-3 on the season and dropping the Seattle Seahawks to 2-3 as well on the season.